KTN News, Uasin Gishu County.
So, trouble in paradise. Let's speak about this, and I have with me, as I told you, political risk analyst Dismas Mokua, political analyst Mark Bichachi, Kipchumba Karori, political strategist, and we have now Haman Manyora. I was able to beat the traffic because of the marathon in the capital this morning. Haman, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Pole for traffic.
You get wondering.
All right.
We are not operating like a city, you know.
All right, let me begin with you then, as I welcome you to the show. What is your take on this whole split happening inside Jubilee? The leaders, a section of leaders, we have to say, from Rift Valley saying that, look, Uhuru Kenyatta is doing this very deliberately to alienate the deputy president and by extension his people of Rift Valley in terms of development projects. Does it make any sense to you?
First of all, thank you for inviting me to this great show, to interact with these great young people. I admire them so much when I'm at home watching.
Right.
Well, a lot is happening within the Jubilee Party and broadly within the country. It is obvious that the handshake has introduced things that nobody had imagined before. So all these kind of jitters and the reactions are normal.
Okay.
Because from 9th of March last year, things have never been the same. And I don't think they were intended to be the same. So the things you are seeing in Jubilee to me are normal. What I'm not finding useful to the side of Ruto is the idea of the way they are reacting now, the way they are fighting back, if you call it fighting back. Because it's like they have removed their gloves and it's no longer a secret that they are hitting at the president. I just don't know how far they will go with that kind of approach.
All right.
I'm of the view that you have to wait, and if at some point, and I'm Ruto, and I'm seeing at some point, I can't take this no more, then I'll quit government.
Right.
And then fight from outside. But the boxing they are doing from within government, you see there's a trap, and I think they are walking into that trap.
All right.
Soon, they are reacting to small things like what Murathe has done and what we have seen Raila say and so on and so forth. But soon there's going to be a bigger thing. And then they will react and they will give President Uhuru Kenyatta perhaps the excuse he has always wanted to have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's listen to what was said in the county of Kirinyaga this past week during the 6th Devolution Conference, which appeared to be a sort of boxing ring between the Raila Odinga and Deputy President, speaking on separate days. Listen.
Rumor mongers, propagandists, and peddlers of half-truths, exaggerations, and distortions meant for media headlines to execute covert political schemes.
Don't come and tell us that it was not 20 billion, it was only 7. Let the investigation authorities complete the investigations. Who are you to tell us? How did you know? You are the thief who is trying to show us that, oh, the other thief running away.
The question that I am being asked is actually like a hyena asking a herdsman, what is your interest in your herd? And why do you know the number of the livestock you are keeping?
Mark, there is not only, gloves are not only off inside the Jubilee and those leaders, but also between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. Is this healthy? Was this expected?
Well, it is extremely unhealthy, but it was expected. I'll tell you why it was expected. It is in the nature of both leaders to be very confrontational. William Ruto is not one to shy away from a fight, and neither is one Raila Odinga. However, you must ask yourself who is beating who where. You see, Raila Odinga is coming out more strategic than William Ruto. The question has to be asked, why did William Ruto feel the need to respond? Because I will say, if I stand here and I say, ule mtu ananuka atoke nje, and then you start arguing, saying, how do you know I smell? Then we definitely suspect that you are the smelly one. Therefore,
but it was a direct hit, wasn't it?
No, but before, let's remember, William Ruto is the one who walked into this conversation. It was a conversation between the Kerio Valley Authority and the DCI. It is Murkomen, it is Ruto who walked into this thing. And their strategy, by the way, I'll tell them for free as a strategist. You may choose to think that I don't like them, but that's up to you. But I'll tell them for free. But this strategy cannot work. This strategy is a strategy only for the people within Kerio Valley who you've convinced that an audit of a dam means no dam. That is the only person you're campaigning to. The rest of the country is looking at you and wondering why you're defending corruption, especially after every statement that you make, the DCI, as they investigate, comes out to say that the original position of 21 billion is correct. The original position of towels is correct. The original position of tiles is correct. So then you as a deputy president come out looking worse for wear. Also, you cannot be part of the executive and then begin to argue about how the DCI, which is part of the executive, is doing its work. You then seem to be shooting yourself in the foot. Raila Odinga, by the way, just needs to sit down and enjoy as this thing unravels, because as the way the dominoes are placed, they're going to play into his advantage. My advice to them is this: if you really want to make this issue into 2022, do not think that playing the same politics you played with Hague is what is going to work here. Because Hague had the sympathy of the people. The entire, a lot of parts of the country were affected by that issue. So you're not going to play victim again when the damage that has been caused is bed sheets and towels and nice things have been bought for a few, when the people in Kerio Valley do not have a blanket to sleep on.
Chumba, do you agree?
With Mark or with who?
With Jesus.
No. You know,
Yes, with Mark.
No, I don't agree with Mark. Whereas I get some hint from the principle he ascribes to, there are things that must be looked. All politics is local, Ben. When you go to the ground and the people are telling you, we are told, dam intaka iende, you have to come out and defend that one first, because at the end of the day, politicians are not voted by newspaper editors or by journalists. They are voted by their local people. But back to the germane issue, which is the dam politics and all the issues within what is happening within the Raila Ruto fights. First of all, the fight is not good for the republic, because as you have been talking about, we expected the handshake to cool down temperatures, and we expected that now we can have a conducive environment. With the Ruto-Raila battle, we will not achieve any big four. Uhuru Kenyatta will just go home as any other president who served his term. There might be nothing apart from the SGR that will be written in his name. Back to what Mark is talking about. My take is one, let the DCI and the DPP do it within the shortest time possible, so that the people of Aror and the people of the Lower Valley.
Okay, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you a bit. Let's interrupt this discussion to bring you some breaking news now. It is feared that an unknown number of people have died after an Ethiopian airline plane destined for Nairobi crashed this morning. Ethiopian Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy tweeted that the office, the PM, on behalf of the government and people of Ethiopia, would like to express its deepest condolences, the tweet says, to the families of those that have lost their loved ones on Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 on regular scheduled flight from Addis Ababa to Nairobi, Kenya this morning. We shall be bringing you more information on this breaking news as we receive it. Details still scanty. There's a news statement that has come out of in relation to that. Ethiopian Airlines regrets to confirm that its flight ET 30210 March scheduled service from Addis Ababa to Nairobi was involved in an accident today at Bishofu. The aircraft, a B737, a Boeing 777-800 MAX with registration number ET-AVJ International, took off at 8:38 a.m. local time from Addis Ababa Bole International Airport and lost contact at around 8:44 a.m. That is around 6 minutes later. At this time, the search and rescue operations are in progress. The airlines says that has not confirmed information about survivors or any possible casualties. Ethiopian Airlines staff will be sent to the accident scene and will do everything possible to assist the emergency services. It is believed there were 149 passengers and 8 crew on board the flight, but the airline says they are currently confirming the details on the passenger manifest for the flight. Ethiopian Airlines is establishing a passenger information center and telephone number to try and get the very correct details on that. So breaking news Very sad news. They've confirmed, feared that an unknown number of people have lost their lives after an Ethiopian airline plane destined for Nairobi from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, crashed this morning. Ethiopian Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy has confirmed that through a tweet, saying that on behalf of the government and people of Ethiopia would like to express its deepest condolences to the families of those that have lost their loved ones on Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 on a regular scheduled flight to Nairobi, Kenya this morning. So the airline saying they are not sure of any casualty information. They are establishing the rescue operations and an information center on the same to try and tell the world what's happening. So that's news just in. We are keeping an eye on that for you. Shall be telling you indeed what's happening here on KTN News. So it is feared that a unknown number of people have lost their lives, but we know that the plane, Boeing 737, had a total of 149 passengers on board, and 8 crew crashed or lost contact. The plane lost contact 6 minutes after takeoff. It took off from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia at 8:38 a.m. and lost contact at around 8:44 a.m. We are keeping an eye on that for you. Gentlemen, of course, breaking news coming, a plane was destined for Nairobi. We are keeping an eye on that. But let's continue with our discussion before we take a quick commercial break. Dismas, you haven't spoken on this.
I was completing something.
All right, finish your points.
Okay. First of all, may their soul rest in peace. And it's unfortunate. What I was telling you is this, Ben. This project, the Aror and the Kimwarer projects, they are at the center of the hearts of the people of Elgeyo Marakwet because of the hardships they have gone through. So you have to understand, when local politicians speak, the MCAs, they are not privy to the information. Maybe some of the people in this panel are privy to. They look at it from our project, our pet project in the ground, not the bigger corruption. And also you have to understand the propaganda around there.
You're saying they know more than we do here.
No, for them they know the propaganda that has been peddled around the dam.
Mark, you seem to be saying.
No, let me
we don't
just
have
finish.
time. We need to move
so
quickly on
the end of it all, what I need to say about the issue of Ruto-Raila rivalry is that after the coalition government and the run-up to the 2013 election, the strategy Raila adopted was the strategy of cannibalizing the whole thing.
Okay.
And my request to those people who are trying to do the same thing now is that strategy in politics might never go far.
Okay. Dismas, what is your take on all this? Very quickly, 1 minute only.
Well, the behavior of the Deputy President William Ruto at Kirinyaga is unacceptable and is not consistent with our public interest and national interest. On the same note, the behavior of Raila Odinga is unacceptable to our national interest and public interest. You can't have two politicians with serious political capital insulting each other all over like this. And you know, these are a very clever way of not investigating corruption. Because what we are supposed to be discussing is corruption. There are those two projects. Were they supposed to take place? Yes. Have they taken place? No. Why? It's because of corruption allegations, and the DCI is investigating that. Now, when the head of state, President Kenyatta, says he smells a rat, and then the DCI is in the process of trying to establish where is this rat and how big is the rat, and then the deputy president comes and disputes that, and then Raila Odinga says, I smell a rat also. There's a thief somewhere. So what happens to these projects? The projects have to be investigated. And I think some of those legislators from that part of the world, they must understand that the architects of their misfortune, in fact, are sons and daughters of that part of the world. Because when you look at the board of KVDA, the implementing agency, when you look at the board, almost 90% are members from the same community, from that village. So if there is sabotage is not coming from Nairobi, or Kiambu or Bondo. Sabotage is coming from their own sons and daughters. Those are the people who have engaged in mischief, who have ignored procurement rules, who are being accused of corruption. And in my view, what those legislators are supposed to be doing is giving Kinoti moral support for him to engage in fast investigations so that we establish who are the culprits, so that we know that after the handshake between Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta is when the project was conceived, and is when Raila Odinga walked into the project and disrupted it. But we cannot allow politicians to engage in this kind of reckless propaganda. The poor villagers in that part of the world who are supposed to start enjoying food security, run away from cattle rustling, are being subjected to misfortune by their own sons and daughters. So we can't, it's the sons and daughters of that part of the world that are being investigated. It's one of their own who has spent 36 straight hours at DCI. So you cannot say that it's because of Raila Odinga or Uhuru Kenyatta that Rotich is being, is having an audience with the DCI. How does Raila Odinga come in? How does Danshe come in?
Okay.
And you see, another thing that these leaders are saying, which is another propaganda beat that we have to run away from, they're saying, how come you're only investigating these two projects? But understand the DCI has got millions of cases investigating. If you've got 10 cases of corruption, you must pick one, and then 2 and 3. So if the DCI has decided to start with those dams, what is the big deal? At the end of the day, it's going to do all investigations. And in my view, those leaders must be condemned in the strongest terms possible, because now they are thinking that they're going to spread propaganda and intimidate President Kenyatta. We shouldn't allow leaders, especially from Jubilee, to attempt to intimidate President Uhuru Kenyatta. It's unacceptable.
All right. Before we continue, of course, let's remind our viewers, if you're just joining us here on Sunday edition on KTN News, that we have that breaking news coming from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. A plane, a Boeing 737 that was destined from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia to Nairobi, Kenya, to the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, has crashed. A no number of people have died, are believed to have lost their lives. The Ethiopian Airlines flight 302 from Addis Ababa lost contact at around 8:44 after taking off at 8:38. 6 minutes after takeoff, the plane is believed to have had 148 passengers and 8 crew on board. The Ethiopian Airlines saying the Boeing 737 lost contact at 8:44 a.m., 36 minutes after takeoff, as we've told you, at Bishoftu in southern Ethiopia. We're still trying to get as much information as we can on this very devastating news coming from Ethiopia of that plane that seemed to have crashed. The Ethiopian Airlines have dispatched rescue operations, and of course we understand they're establishing an information center to try and get information on the passengers, trying to establish the passenger manifest so that this can be managed. We are trying to get as much information as we can on this breaking news coming from Ethiopia. A Boeing 737 flight 02 from Addis Ababa to Nairobi crashing, losing contact 6 minutes after takeoff in southern Ethiopia. Stay with us here for more details on this. Now, as we wind this up, before I come to you, Mark.
I had 30 seconds.
Okay.
We must invite Kipchumba Murkomen to understand what oversight is. If the DCI is raising questions, the office of the majority leader in Senate, who is also a senator where those two dams are, should be the highest voice questioning every coin, not defending a project for which he has no capacity to investigate or speak about. We should also invite the deputy president to join Uhuru Kenyatta in doing what? In saying that if there is a problem with this project, let it be fixed, so that the project is not delivered, but so that the project is delivered, because the process of auditing does not change the budget that is at national government. There is no way the government, because our budget is a matter of law, it is not a suggestion. So if there is money allocated for that project, it will be delivered. We must make sure it is done well. So let's stop lying to the Kenyan people.
All right. Haman,
Yes.
you spoke about gloves being off inside the Jubilee. Gloves are off between Raila Odinga and William Ruto. What do you read?
Well, it was always going to get to that level. It was always going to come to this, because, you see, the wars that are being fought, the hits, Uhuru is somewhere there watching. He knows what's going on. Ruto also knows what's going on. And by hitting at Raila, Ruto is actually hitting at Uhuru indirectly.
Okay.
See? So, like, I agree with Dismas that it is ugly coming from top leaders of this country. citizens are watching and wondering, why will elders and statesmen of this level throw and haul insults at each other? But like I said, it was always going to come to this, and the worst is coming. But allow me, Ben, just half a second to talk about the dam. You see, there is a saying that there is no honor among thieves. So the thieves are now fighting each other and eating each other. The dam was, as are all these other projects, the dam was a project for eating. There can never be a dam that can cost that kind of money. Definitely. Okay. So, since there's no honor among thieves, they are fighting over the spoils, but it's really because of the politics around. No dam will cost as much money as we are talking about. All right. Everything about this dam is... Actually, that is a conversation, Ben, we ought to be having this morning. Okay. That's how can you take a loan of 65 billion and you pay insurance something in the region of 17 million? All right. If you scale it down to a loan you and I can afford to take, yes, that means you have taken a loan of 6 million and somebody is asking you to 2 million for insurance. How can you explain that? So the conversation is really for Kenyans to know there is nothing about the dams meant for the people of Elgeyo Marakwet or any other place for this man, for that matter. These dams are projects meant to allow people to eat. But in a mix of politics now, you can see the thieves are now hitting at each other. All right. Yeah. But Ben, allow me 10 seconds also to say something. We need to take a commercial break. We just hold that thoughts kindly. Let's take a quick commercial break here on Sunday edition on KTN News. But of course, an update of that breaking news coming from the south of Ethiopia that a Boeing 737 flight 02, a passenger jet, is feared to have crashed in the southern town of Bishoftu in Ethiopia 6 minutes after takeoff. We understand from news coming from Ethiopia that the aircraft lost contact at around 8:44 this morning, Sunday local time. That is after 6 minutes after takeoff in the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa. It was headed for Nairobi, Kenya, and this word came for the very first time after a tweet came from the Ethiopian Prime Minister Ahmed Abiy, who tweeted, and I read his tweet. The office of the PM on behalf of the government and people of Ethiopia would like to express its deepest condolences to the families of those that have lost their loved ones on Ethiopian Airlines Boeing 737 on regular scheduled flight to Nairobi, Kenya this morning. The Ethiopian Airlines have said that rescue operations have already started near that southern town of Bishoftu in Ethiopia. They did not provide details of the passengers, but we understand the plane had 148 passengers and 8 crew on board. Details still scanty at this particular time, but we are trying to get more as it comes out of Ethiopia. Let's now take that quick commercial break. When we come back, we shall be talking about the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and that takeover bid. Why does KQ, a company that is grappling with that 220 billion shilling debt, that one that needs a government bailout to compete with the likes of Ethiopian Airlines, want to take over the running of the fourth